Hi, this is Ron with Amazing Mile Marker Stops. We're going to try something different today. If you've been watching any of our videos, you've probably noticed that Elixir is not a brand new boat. And so we have a lot of projects going on all the time trying to fix her up and keep her maintained. When we were new boaters, oftentimes the simplest of questions were perplexing to us, and we'd have to go research them and spend hours online trying to find an answer. And sometimes there wasn't an answer because other boaters said, hey, that's simple, and didn't think that we needed to know the answer. So we thought we'd bring you a new series of how-tos. So as we do projects on the boat, we're going to start making how-to videos, no matter how simple or how complex. And we hope that'll help new boaters especially know how to fix something. It may even help some of you experienced boaters know how to fix something. There's still lots of questions I have. I'm sure no matter how long you boat, you still have questions. So we hope this will help. We're going to put in a different playlist. So if you're not interested in how-to, you can skip it. But we're going to try to make it both interesting and informative and entertaining, hopefully. So you may enjoy watching them, even if you don't need to know how to fix it up, and even if you're not a boater. So with all that said, our first project is some air vents we needed to install on the side of the boat. When we bought the boat, it had this hole in the side. I'll back out a little bit so you can kind of get a reference, but this is on the port side of the boat. It had this hole just wide open. Now there was a box built inside the hole that just went straight down into the engine room. And so every time it rained or you got a heavy wave over the bow, we took in water in the engine room, and the box was rotting out, so I ripped it out at this point. So we had a similar box on the starboard side, although this one did have an old teak louvered door on it, which I've ripped out because it likewise just, anytime you got a heavy rain, it just came right on through, went in the box and dropped down into the engine room. You can see that what I've done is I've built a new box on the inside, which we've fiberglassed. And what happens is this is solid all the way to the top, so no water can get in. Any water that hits is just going to fall down here and drain right on back out. Now up in here, it goes up inside, and this wall here extends, probably to about right there. Even in the heaviest of seas, any water that comes in here and comes up behind this wall probably won't make it up over that wall to go down the other side. And once you clear that wall, then again there's another wall on a third wall. And that lets the air, because that's what this is all about, is allowing air into your engine room. That lets the air go on down into the engine room. The whole thing is fiberglass, so it's waterproof. It's connected to the boat via fiberglass all the way around, so there's no chance for any water to get in. But this looks kind of ugly. We've done something about that. Enter our brand new vents that we had manufactured just to fit in that hole. And as you can see, we also have one for the port side. Which doesn't fit. That means we're going to have to do a little bit of work on this one. Alright, so on the inside, in preparation of making the hole a little bit larger, I taped up this, yeah, I taped it all up. Really likes when I do this because it helps keep some of the dust out of the boat. It's not 100% effective, but I guess every little bit helps. Alright, so we're going to remove this vent back out. Kind of take a look-see to see where it's binding. Yeah, it looks mostly on the sides that I had the problem. So we're going to I put tape on there, you saw, to hold this bag out of the way, but obviously the tape isn't working. We're going to try to grind some of this off. We got this little bit. It's a cutting tool, and it'll shave off the fiberglass. Hopefully not shave off too much of the bag. And there we go, perfect fit. And what I gotta do now is I gotta drill some holes to put some screws in there. We did not put any screws across the bottom, and that's to allow the water that may get in here to drain back out. So we're not gonna seal the bottom, but we will use some sort of sealant around both sides, just try to prevent water from getting to the screws. You can see there's a little bit of slop here, not much, which is good, but a little bit. As I look in the holes, this one here has a little bit of, you can see the edge in it, as well as this one. Not much I can do about that one, but this here dictates that I want the vent as far over that way as possible to catch as much of the trim there, the fiberglass, as I can. So it looks like if I push this corner up as much as I can into that corner, that's where I want this to be. So the first thing I'm going to do is drill a hole here. Now they say that when you drill a hole in fiberglass, that you need to make the hole, so the drill bit needs to be just slightly smaller than the screw, because the threads of the screw don't cut into fiberglass the way they do wood. But this is cord, which means it has a probably, I don't know, an 1/8 inch thick of fiberglass on top of 3/4 inch plywood. And then on the other side is another 1/8 inch of fiberglass. And I found that the 1/8 inch of fiberglass is really meaningless when it comes to your screw. And if you drill the hole big, as big as your screw, you're just going to go right on through, and it won't bite in the wood either. So when drilling in cord fiberglass, where the fiberglass is thin, then I pick my drill bit size according to as if I was putting into wood, which means you want to find a drill bit about the same thickness as the shaft of the screw, not the threads of the screw. And the threads they'll make it through that 1/8 inch of fiberglass, and then you've got something to bite into the wood on the other side, and that's actually what it's going to hold on to, is the wood in there and not the fiberglass. Alright, so now that we got our first hole drilled, I'm going to put a screw in there. And for this project I'm using number 8 screws, just 3/4 inch thick, or I mean 3/4 inch long. And the reason I know to use number 8 is because when I had this fabricated and we designed it, we told them we wanted to use number 8 screws. So they made these holes to accommodate a number 8 screw. Now I always set my clutch down low to begin with. It's on number 4. If you're working with brand new wood or something to that effect, you could bump it up. But when you're working on an old boat and you're not sure how solid that wood is at any given point when I'm working around the boat, you don't want to over torque it, or you may just strip through whatever you're hoping is going to hold it. So I put it on 4. I just want to hold this in place. I don't want to necessarily try to clamp it down too tight to where I end up not being able to do anything. All right, now what that does, that's going to hold it in place. You see there's no more movement. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to tape around the outside with painter's tape. And the purpose of that is going to be to try to contain the silicone that I'm going to use for a sealant. Silicone, generally speaking, on boats isn't a great thing. If it gets on your fiberglass, you absolutely cannot paint that. You can't do anything to that once there's silicone on it. The only answer at that point is you'd have to sand it down in order to get the silicone off, and then you could repaint it, which just makes a lot of extra work. If all I have is a nick and I just want to patch that nick, you know, I just want to paint that area. I might want to lightly sand it with some high grit paper, you know, at least 200 grit or something, just to let the paint stick. But I don't want to do a lot of work, and if you got silicone cement on there, you have to sand it way down. So I'm going to try to contain it. A good suggestion, I don't know if you saw me do it, but always turn one corner of the tape over on itself and use the corner that's going to be out from where you're trying to actually mask. And the reason for that is then when you go to take your tape off, you know you got an edge you can easily grab because it's not stuck. It can't stick because you turned the tape over on it. So always remember to do that. I'm going to tape across here, so I'm going to do this corner here. All right, so that marks our outside edge. We know where the edge is at. Now while you've got your placeholder screw in here holding this from moving, then you want to go ahead and drill the rest of your holes. All right, so we've got our edge masked off. We got all our screw holes drilled. Now we back out the placeholder screw. Okay. Now when you apply the sealant, in this case it's going to be pretty easy because most of my screw holes are fairly close to the edge. But even if they weren't, you always want to make sure your sealant is outside of the screw holes so that any rain that comes or moisture that comes is going to hit that sealant before it can get to your hole. In some cases it may be important to put them on the inside of your hole as well. But in this case, we know that any water that gets in here is just going to fall down into the bottom. It's not going to work its way out to the screw holes, so I'm not worried about that.
You always want to put your sealant as far away from this edge as you can, because when you screw down the cover, the vent, it's going to push that sealant up and out. And again, we don't want a lot of mess to clean up with the sealant pouring out, so you want to keep it as far from the edge as you can. Alright, at this point we're about ready. Put the vent on. It's looking pretty good. And now I've previously cut the tip. I don't use this when I'm putting it around there because I just find it slows you down. You can't squeeze it out as fast, and I like to work fast. So, but I put the tip on because I want to shoot some in every one of my holes, so that when I seat the screw, it'll be sealed up. Threads of screws are just really a big magnet for water, and if water gets that screw, it'll follow those threads right on into the wood inside here. So we want to try to seal that up best we can. So I'm going to shoot some in each hole, and that way as the thread goes in, it's going to take that sealant with it and hopefully plug itself up as it goes. I think we're ready to put in all the screws. Alright, so she's screwed down. Now we can remove the tape. And then you want to just do the final cleanup. I'm going to try and get as much of that silicone off there as you can, because any that sits there is just going to collect dirt. And there you have it, completely installed. Should keep any water out. Anything that hits is going to hit these fins. Most of it will not make it in. What does make it in will be trapped by that wall system I built in there, and it should keep the engine room dry for years to come.
If you'd like to see more of these videos, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. And don't forget to flip over to our travel guide at amazingmilemarkerstops.com and like us on Facebook. And remember, don't just cruise.
You need to visit Amazing Mile Marker Stops.